أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل Assalamu alaikum again. Let me begin by making a statement that when we look at the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the deen of Allah is the same. What Adam brought and what the Khatam, the last prophet, brought, there is no difference there at all. The message doesn't change, but the method of delivering the message changed. The books were changed, the languages were changed, the mu'jizat and the miracles were changed because of the difference in makan and zaman. And that is the concept that we have to keep in mind when we are talking about the issue of madrasa and the madrasa curriculum. The purpose of madrasa is not changing. Even if we had non-Shia, non-Muslim consultants, for example, coming in, it doesn't mean we are, the madrasa, the purpose of the madrasa is still the same. And that is to impart the Islamic knowledge and, if possible, to nurture the children according to the Islamic values. What we are talking about here is the method of instruction. That can change according to makan and zaman. Methods would change. You have to look at the environment. You cannot use the method used a century before for the generation of our time. And basically, this whole process started by MCE is basically to seek to nurture wholesome Islamic personality among the students by using a method which has been preferred, and you heard from Dr. Bashir Datu, the integrated method of education or instruction. Now, the existing method is known as conventional method. Although I'm looking for the answer. We might need to do more research to see when did it started, what was before it. But we call it at the moment conventional method, where the subjects are divided. You have aqidah, you have fiqh, you have tariq, you have akhlaq, and then you have Quran. Now we keep the Quran at the side for the moment. So you have these 4 subjects, which were before conventional method, they were all lumped up together as diniyat. Even if you look at the books before, migration of Shias of South Asia to different places, the books were diniyat and Quran. So even that, if you go back in history, you might see that there was no division of subjects into aqaid, fiqh, tariq, and akhlaq. And so when I was invited by MCE to this urban retreat, and that is the first time I heard experts, explanation about this, different methods, conventional, hybrid, and integrated method, I was not 100% convinced. Maybe because we are familiar with the system and we feel comfortable with what we have, and to move to a new thing, you always hesitate to do that. And so at the end of that retreat and the discussions that we had come to a conclusion that, okay, let's start integrated system for the earlier age of the madrasa education. But to the higher levels, we'll still maintain separate, aqaid, tariq, fiqh, and akhlaq. But then when I came back to Toronto, started thinking about it, I went back to my own library, because I have a section where I have all these collections of, madrasa curriculums and books from different parts of the world. And there is certain materials sitting there. I haven't really gone through them in detail. And so I started going through it, and I looked at the religious education system in the Iranian public schools. I'm using the term public schools here, means the general schools, not a separate, weekend madrasa. And so they have religious instructions there. And I saw that the entire system that they have from before is not divided in aqidah, tariq, and fiqh, and akhlaq. It's all integrated method. Then I looked at some of the works by the specialists of their education system where they talk about it. Then I looked at this set that I had of the textbooks used in the Shia schools in Lebanon. And there also I saw all the textbooks that did not divide these, the lessons according to subjects. Rather, everything was in a way integrated. And so that created kind of a comfort level for me that, okay, maybe this is the method which is out there for many, many years, if not many decades. We didn't know about it. And then thinking more about it, I said, what do I do on Mimbar? I take a theme, and then I look at relevant ayat of Quran, and then I look at ahadith, end up with examples from history. What is this? Isn't this the integrated method in practice? So we have been doing it without even realizing that, okay, this is the integrated method. And so this is where the comfort level for me started to increase. And then I'm just telling you how I got converted to it. And then I said, okay, let me look at my own works. This is a book I published in 1989. It says the ritual and spiritual purity. 3/4 of this is all fiqh, talking about taharat and najasat, everything from najasat to wuzu and ghusl and tayammum. And last quarter of the book talks about from ritual to spiritual. So I was close to it in a sense. I realized that, okay, I have all this masail of fiqh on one side, but I need to connect this ritual with the spiritual. And so you will see some of the examples I have at the end, talks about it. And so this was not total integration, but at least in one volume, I tried to put, relevant issues. For example, when we say najasat of kufr, why? Or even the whole concept of najasat, what are we talking about? Is it physical cleanliness? No. Then why do we have tayammum? Do you do tayammum with water or with dirt? The word is dirt. And so it's not really anything to do with physical purity. Actually, it's just a way of emphasizing this physical cleanliness is there. Yes, it's part of our values. But it's a window into spiritual purification. And so this is where, finally, I basically came over to this system. And then the next meeting we had in Toronto, we agreed in a way to go with this method all the way to the end of the curriculum, not just for the earlier grades. Now, this integrated method basically seeks to weave the values of various subjects in order to promote what I would call more holistic, wholesome character among the students, because that is what is missing in the conventional method. There is no connection of one to the other. And I'll give you an example. For example, when we teach and this is there in the book also, when we talk about wuzu, we say the water should be mubah, and I don't need to translate these things. These are you're all teachers here. The water should be mubah. The dress of the namazi should be mubah. The place where you are doing sajda should be mubah. What does it mean? Either it's yours or you have the permission to use it. But we do not ever, in the 8 or the 12 years of madrasa, connect that ruling of fiqh to this sense of, respecting the rights, the property of others. And therefore, what happens? You have a punctual namazi doing his wuzu according to his understanding correctly and namaz, but when it comes to business, he's mashallah. And you start thinking, what's going on? He does namaz every day, punctually. But when he deals with other people, he's cheating. Because he has not been told that even haram income makes your money haram. The clothes that you buy becomes, ghasbi in a way. The water that you pay the bill for it is not, the money is not totally yours. And that have implications. But we do not connect a simple fiqhi mas'ala to the practical, akhlaqi issues. Then, for example, when we talk about, and I'll just use the examples of taharat and najasat. One of the mutahirat is known as ghaybat Muslim. You know what it means, no? I don't know to ask you. The ghaybat is not ghaybat sughra and kubra here. We're talking about ghaybat Muslim. But have we ever connected why? I saw a Muslim whose shirt became najis here one day. Next day he comes to the masjid wearing the same shirt. I'll say, aren't you ashamed coming into masjid with najis shirt? Do I have a right to say that? No, because he was absent, ghaybat, for so long that it was possible for him to go and wash his shirt and make it park and come back. I don't have a right to question that or judge him in that way. This ruling is basically taking us from ghaybat Muslim to the hurmat of ghibat. Do we ever in madrasa, when we talk about ghaybat Muslim and mutahirat, connect that to the issue of ghibat? No. And, in aqaid, we talk about ilm ghayb of Allah and Rasul and the Imam. But we do not then connect that with this ayat of Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, the Imams of the time, the Imam of the time is the shahid. He is witness of our actions. We talk about ilm ghayb as an important issue, even for a privilege given to Anbiya and A'imma. But then connect it that whatever I do, he knows about it. And and therefore this will be a way of connecting to the Imam through our actions. MashaAllah, we have people who have gone for Hajj for, many, many years. There are multiple times Al-Hajj. But have they learned the lesson of, equality of the mu'mineen? They come and go and come and every year, mashallah, and again, when you sit down, with the same racist attitude. We are talking about interfaith. I'm not even talking about intrafaith. I'm talking about intrafaith of Shias. With the difference of, diversity, ethnicity, language, and culture, especially in North America, where there is more mixing between the Shias from different ethnic and cultural background. But we have these, mashallah, al-hajj multiple times, but still the thinking, because we do not connect the ritual to the spiritual part of it. The issue of, for example, these days, they talk about najasat, or Islam is a religion which talks hatred, or kafir is najis. But kufr of najasat of kufr doesn't mean we hate the kafir. We hate kufr. But we do not hate kafir. There is a difference there. And why is this mas'ala? Because they think when we say najis, it means, there is an element of hatred. Why don't they think about other items in that list? What about najasat of money, semen? What about the najasat of a mu'min, faqih and alim who dies? From the time he dies till the time of ghusl, even his body is najis, that if you touch, you have to do ghusl masl mayyit. Do we hate that? No. Semen is the essence of human being. This is the beautiful creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is an ayat of Allah in a way. But we do not hate it or say anything negative about it. So najasat does not necessarily mean hatred. Actually, there is a lesson in it. And I derive that lesson from the saying of Amir al-Mu'minin, where he connects these two things. He says, I'm surprised about a human being, the children of Adam. أوله نطفة وآخره جيفة. His beginning is that nutfa, that drop, very insignificant. His end is the mayyit, which becomes najis. And still he allows himself to be arrogant. To me, this mas'ala of najasat of mani and mayyit is actually a lesson to be learned, that do not be arrogant. But we do not connect because, the system is not integrated. It is all separate from one another. Let me now go to some of the ayat of Quran where you see, but before that, is Quran integrated book? Is there a chapter on Aqidah and Fiqh and Akhlaq separately? None of these surahs, even the stories in the Quran, are not in historical form except one surah. Which surah is that? Surah Yusuf, which has this chronological, event of the life of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Other than that, even the stories in the Quran are all, Ibrahim's story of the old days would be earlier, younger days would be later on, all mixed up. Because Quran is not a book of history, it uses history only as lessons, to teach us, how to conduct ourselves. Look at these 3-4 examples that I have. This is Surah Baqarah, number 222. And this is an ayat about in the passage on Taharat and Najasat. It talks about the issue of the monthly cycle. And it says, you ask about it and, what are the rules and regulations. And when the Taharat happens, then there are certain things which are allowed. At the end, the ayat ends, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَطَهِّرِينَ. Because it is about Taharat and Najasat, Allah ends by saying Allah loves those who do Taharat, who purify themselves. This would have been sufficient and relevant to the theme of the ayat. But there's something else before that. What happened? This is what I did. Anyway, this was supposed to come down. Inna Allah yuhibbu at-tawwabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. The point I have is that what has tawbah? Allah loves those who do tawbah and He loves those who do taharat. What is tawbah to do with taharat? Anyway, so tawbah is not the taharat issue.
I think that's the cleanliness of your spirituality.
That's where we are coming to. Although the ayat is a fiqhi ayat talking about najasat and taharat, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about tawbah first. You purify your soul by getting rid of the sins, and the method for that is tawbah. You purify your body and get rid of the najasat by water. And so that's how it is. Anyway, that's fine. We'll go to the next one. Yeah. This is an ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the dress. And He says, Ya bani Adam, qad anzalna alaykum libasan yuwari sawatikum warisha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down for us the clothes or the means to make the clothes, as well as the feathers that we can use for it, so that we may cover our private parts. And then He says, ذَلِكَ مِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَكَّرُونَ. These are the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that people may think about it. But while He's talking about the apparent dress and clothes, before He ends, He says, وَلِبَاسُ التَّقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. Where do you buy libas al-taqwa? Or which tailor makes that for you? Huh? You connect the zahiri libas to the batini libas. And this is where you see integration, where Allah is talking about one blessing but then connecting with something else. Hajj. He says when you go for Hajj, don't do this and that. وَمَا تَفْعَلُ مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمُهُ اللَّهُ وَتَذَوَّدُوا. Tazawwadu means make the provision for the journey. One of the wajibat is that you should be able to afford, and so you have to prepare yourself for the journey. So it is more about the journey for Hajj, to going to Mecca. But in between, before He ends the ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى. The best of the provision, not for the journey from here to Mecca, but from here to Akhirah, is known as taqwa. 3 more ayat about aqidah, and this is one of the blessings, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when I was doing the explanatory translation of the Quran, it is while translating these 3 ayat that I realized, okay, there is a theme. And this is where history and aqidah comes together. If you look at the earlier the early ayat, where Ibrahim's debate with Namrud is described. The second one talks about this prophet who passed by ruins of a village where everybody was dead there, and he thought, how will Allah resurrect people? So there's a whole story about Allah made him die or sleep for 100 years. Then he got up, and then Allah showed him the resurrection of the donkey right in his by his eyes. And then we come to the third one, where Ibrahim is again wondering about resurrection, and Allah gives him the power to bring the birds back to life. If you look at it, these are actually connected to one another. The first one is example of ilmul yaqeen. The second one is example of aynul yaqeen. The first one, somebody told you behind this hill, there is a fire. And you saw the smoke. So you have the ilm that this is a fire there. Then you go around the mountain and you see the fire. This is aynul yaqeen. But then maybe you were in LA, maybe you thought this is a movie, scene or something. These are all artificial things. So you go and put your finger in it. And when it's burned, that's you have haqqul yaqeen. You become 100% sure. And so you have 3 ayat talking about different events, but they are actually examples of 3 levels of yaqeen. Ilmul yaqeen, aynul yaqeen, and haqqul yaqeen. And so, this is what I believe that even Quran uses the integrated method as far as instructing people to be among those who follow the right path. Let me end, and this is not majlis, but with a statement from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. On the day of Ashura, he gave different sermons. And in one, towards the end, where he says to them, he says, وَيْلَكُمْ مَا عَلَيْكُمْ أَن تَنْصُتُوا إِلَيَّ وَتَسْمَعُوا قَوْلِي. What has happened to you? Why do not you listen to me? Why do not you hear to what I'm saying while I'm calling you ila sabil al-rashad, to the right path? And then he explains the reason why you are not listening to me, or why you do not even hear my message. He says, فَقَدْ مُلِعَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ مِنَ الْحَرَامِ. Because your bellies are filled with haram food. Have we taught to our kids in the madrasa that it's not only the issue of najasat and haram, it has some spiritual implications, that haram food can become barrier, that even if you have a guide like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, one of the Sayyid Shabab Ahl Jannah talking to you, it will not penetrate your ear or your heart because of haram food as a barrier in between. And this is where we have to look at the issue of connecting different themes of the Islamic teachings to one another. And I think this is the integrated method is the one which tries to do that. We are not talking about that only doing by this the whole community will change. There are many other different issues that have to be taken into consideration, but at least as a madrasa we can do this in order to bring up the generation of people who are holistic as far as Islamic values are concerned. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you.